So, it's not an emotional talk, but I cry easily because I'm an emotional guy. So, I thought about what I could talk about for Halloween, and for the first time, I Googled what a keynote speaker is. And it's usually you set the tone for the event. I was like, well, it's Halloween. I guess I gotta tell you guys scary stories. And boy, do I got a lot of those. I've made a lot of mistakes in my hobby and had a lot of scary things actually happen. So today I'm gonna tell you 5 stories that have happened in my hobby that ended up having like a deeper meaning and deeper life lessons. Because you guys know me, I'm gonna take you through a roller coaster of emotions. We're gonna have some scary things. I hope it's funny. I find it funny. And then I'm gonna get emotional and cry at the end, like I always do. Let's start in 2007. So I wanted to know if you guys have been watching for a while, because a lot of these stories you might hear, but there's a lot of things that I sugarcoated and didn't really tell the truth because it wasn't PG enough. I don't see very many children here, so that means this is going to be good. Okay. Forgive me. This is literally what I have. And instead of rehearsing and thinking it out and practicing last night, I decided to get drunk with everybody. So forgive me. I am Canadian. I don't have a drinking problem. And shout out to the person in the back that's a giant. I see you this time. Thank you for going in the back so everybody can see. So back in 2007, this is an interesting story. You see, I got into the hobby back in the early 2000s, and my first thing, 3 years into the hobby, 17 years ago, I discovered my local aquarium club, and I decided it was like, I discovered it was a room full of people just like you guys, all with common interests. You didn't care who I was, where I'm from, my story, you just wanted to see my fish tanks. It was the first time I finally felt accepted. And that's why the hobby a lot of times means so much to me. And I started building tanks around that time. I built this 240-gallon plywood aquarium, and because I wanted to keep my stingrays and some silver arowana that I imported from the Amazon, because they have a tendency not to get dropped by as easily. Believe it or not, at the time, this was the largest private home aquarium in Atlantic, Canada. Just to tell you how small and behind my hobby is in Atlantic, Canada. Everybody knew about this tank because I was posting pictures, and it was like right around the time I started making videos and stuff, so they all kind of knew about it. And somebody had dropped off this alligator gar at a local fish store about 200 miles away, so about 350 kilometers. If you're not familiar with an alligator gar, it's like oh boy, what would that be like? Like a large sausage with a lot of teeth, and they're mean, and they're really big. This thing was 2 or 3 feet long, and it was dropped off at the fish store. Everybody immediately started calling me because once you're a member, they have your phone number, they have your email, they have your address. So I was getting called over and over and over again, and DMs and emails, and Joey, you have to take this. You have to. They were pushing it on me, like it was my responsibility to start up a rescue, like I was Ohio Fish Rescue or something. No, this is my tank for my stingrays and my arowana. Within 24 hours, it's at my house though. I broke down. I was like, you know what? Okay, you're right. I should probably take it. I had it for about a week when I heard splashing in the middle of the night. Turned the tank lights on, and the alligator's guards going through the tank like a dog with a dog bone, except the dog bone was my arowana. I was upset about that and immediately hated this fish. The very next night, I heard a smash. And I'm talking, this stuff always happens to me at 3, 4 in the morning. I got to work in the morning. I hear a smash, literally smash. I think the tank exploded. I turned the lights on in the room. Mind you, this is my bedroom. So it's a little scary. I just had a little apartment though. I turned the lights on, and the alligator gar had smashed through the top of the tank. And these were 6mm lids. To give you a perspective, a 55-gallon is built with 6mm glass. I felt like that was going to be thick enough. The glass all through the tank, the alligator gar's dead on the ground. I would be lying if I said I wasn't happy. And at least it wasn't me, because he was close to going. 3, 4 in the morning, I got to work. I toss him in a bucket and throw him outside. I'll deal with you the next day. I wake up. It's in October, actually, and I go outside to scrape the car off, start it up, and I hear, like, scuffling in the bucket up on the deck. I thought, great, mice or rats are getting into it. I go up, and there's nothing in the bucket. I was like, oh, maybe I'm hearing things. And then it flops around. It's still alive. Alligator gar can breathe oxygen and survive out of water for a tremendous amount of time. I'd also be lying if I told you I quickly grabbed him and brought him in and set up a tank and saved him. I walked as slow as I could into the house, set up a Rubbermaid tote, dumped him in. I might have kicked him, put a sponge filter in there, and I went to work. He lived, of course, and within a week, we shipped him out west to a much larger aquarium, where at the time Real Aquarist was living. So I guess the moral of this story for me was, and it was such a devastating thing to happen to me, but at the end of the day, I did get out of that gar. Even when you're finally accepted and you feel like you're finally part of something, I found that you have to stay true to yourself. If you buckle and bend to what everybody else wants you to do, it definitely never ends well. Unfortunately, this story only gets worse. Because in 2012, oh, you guys are going to love this one. So in 2012, I don't know if I ever told this story before because I don't want anybody's significant others to think it's going to happen to them. So it's 2, 3 in the morning. All my stories are 2, 3 in the morning. I'm downstairs. I had just built this holding tank to put in some black diamond stingrays that I finally got and grow them out while I build a 540-gallon aquarium. And I don't know if you guys remember it, but the tank that's on the picture cover of my book is the tank I was building. I had about 40 discus in that tank with them. It was literally a holding tank with thousands of dollars of fish. I thought it would be a great idea to check on the fish right before I go to bed, half asleep, and I noticed like a little bubble. It was an acrylic aquarium. I noticed like a little bubble in the seam. And of course I got acrylic cement right beside me. It's not cement. But when you're half asleep, you think, oh, I can fix that. And I take some, drip a little bit of that cement into the seam. If you're not familiar with how this works when you're building an acrylic aquarium, essentially it's like a solvent. It softens the acrylic to the point where it can fuse together at a molecular level, and then the solvent evaporates, leaving you with a seamless seam. But what it will also do is if your seam was crappy in the first place, is it will soften it to the point where it's going to explode. So here I am adding more and more, trying to fix this seam that keeps getting whiter and whiter. Not thinking, 2, 3 in the morning. Next thing, it just goes pop, and the front panel busts off. So I'm holding it like this. I'm in my basement with drop ceilings. If you're not familiar with that, it's basically soundproof. Everybody's upstairs sleeping, knocked out, and I'm holding this, and I don't know what to do, and it's only getting worse. The floor starts getting wet, and it's concrete, so I'm starting to slip. So I got to hug the tank, put my chest against it, and I'm hugging it, and then I start screaming. At the time, my girlfriend's name was Tanya. So I'm screaming at the top of my lungs, just, Tanya, help me, please, help me, at 3 o'clock in the morning. I can assure you, you've dumped water on your floor, and you're scared your significant other or family member is going to be pissed off. Maybe you're making a mess of the living room or something happened. But when she walked into this room finally at 3 in the morning, and I'm hugging the aquarium, water's going over everywhere, everything's she walks in and I'm hugging it like this. Help me. I couldn't see her face, but I could only imagine the look on it. I was like, she's like, well, what do you want me to do? I was like, hug it. I'll go get clamps. I was much louder and much meaner. So she might have weighed, 100 pounds? And she's trying to hug it. She's like, hurry up. And the water's still gushing. So I run outside to my garage. And do you ever go into a room and you're going in there for a specific reason, but once you get there, you forget why you're in there? Well, this is a bad time for that to happen. So I'm like, I don't know what. I was like, I ran back in the house. I was like, is everything okay? And she's like, did you get the clamps? I was like, almost. I was like, okay, the clamps. I go back in, I get the clamps, and I put them on. She absolutely despised this hobby. And there's so many stories just like that. Hated the fact that I did YouTube. Hated all of it. Just and I can understand why. I mean, I've flooded the house a few times. I've had to hold those things together. I always felt like my hobby was a burden to my family. That's kind of what I learned from that situation many years with her. I always thought that my hobby was an absolute burden, financially, space-wise, time-wise, damage-wise to the house. But I felt like that a lot of my life. Like I felt like I was always a burden. You know, I moved out when I was like about 15, not by my choice. They put me in a youth prison. But I always felt like a burden. And so when it came to my hobby feeling like a burden, I just never thought anything of it. I was like, this is just everything's a burden for me. But I'm not a burden. And if you ever feel like you're a burden to your family, or your hobby's a burden, or it's causing so much problems and so much trouble, it's simply not. And I commend you for finding something, just the fact that you're so passionate about something and so driven and in love with something so much. And if you are not a fish keeper, but you are here with somebody, I commend you and I thank you for bringing those people with you. It's not easy being a fish keeper, and it's certainly not easy doing it for a long time and having these sorts of problems. I love the idea that there's a lot of people out there that embrace their spouse with it and not chastising about it. And I finally have somebody like that in my life, and it's been life-changing. And I look at everything differently now. So again, if you ever feel like you're a burden, it's probably not you, it's probably them. In 2018, I didn't realize, I told the first story where I felt pressured by the community that finally accepted me, and I allowed it to happen because I didn't want to be kicked out of it. I wanted to still be accepted, so I buckled under that type of pressure. In 2018, though, I built this building right beside my house and decided I would call it the Aquarium Gallery. It was a joke at first, but then it caught on and everybody accepted it. So I was like, oh, okay, no, this was intentional. I built a 2,000-gallon aquarium, and I came from a past of when I have monster fish, it's bare bottom, bare tank, nothing in it. And I thought I was going to be able to get away with having a 2,000-gallon aquarium painted white with nothing in it but my fish. But no, that wasn't going to happen because I didn't realize how many experts are on the internet and what my fish need. I compromised and added wood into the tank knowing it was bad, knowing it probably wasn't a good idea. And wouldn't you know it, it wasn't. My arowana buddy jumped and landed on the wood at one point, and I made 3 videos of removing air from his body. I did a ton of things to him. I documented it over 3 videos, and 9 million people watched my fish die. A fish that I had for a long time, and it was my prized fish. I really wanted to tell this story, not because of Buddy, but because the pressures of social media isn't real. Social media is not real. And I have a little 16-year-old girl that is constantly being pressured, and pictures and having the perfect body and looking a certain way and conducting yourself a certain way. Or like you post a picture on the internet and somebody's like, that sucks, or you don't know what you're doing. Do you really imagine somebody coming to your house and saying like, oh, your aquarium sucks and you don't know what you're doing? No, but we do it on the internet. And I don't know why. I just want to let you guys know that social media simply isn't real. It's a fairy tale world. I know I'm not the same on camera as I am in person, but it's the same idea. Everybody puts on their best highlights. So try not to buckle to that type of pressure, of social pressure. It doesn't end well either. I'm definitely a prime example of allowing it to happen to me. In 2019, I had a birthday. I was turning 25 for I think it was the 12th time. February 2nd, on your birthday, if you're a fish keeper and you go to a fish store, even if you got $50 in your pocket, you really feel like you can have anything you want. And that's how I always feel going to the pet store on my birthday, because nobody can tell me any different. It's my birthday. I could buy this whole store, like $100 in my pocket. I came across this fish. It's disgusting. He turned everybody's stomachs, but he had 7 chins, and I thought he was beautiful. I got him for me, and I brought him home, and my son asked what it was, and I said, it's a flower horn. He said, well, what's a flower horn? I was like, well, it's like a man-made fish, little this, little that. And he's like, oh, like Frankenstein. I was like, yeah. He's like, let's call him Frank. I was like, okay. And from that moment on, I was a little happier in my videos, interacting with a fish and being silly and having fun. And what I didn't know is how much you guys loved him. And I didn't know until he died. 7 chins are sexy until it catches up to you. I'll try to find a meaning to this story. I just wanted to talk about him. No, after he died, some of the older guys will know Esquire magazine. They did a whole 6-page feature on him. Frank was the first and last sex symbol we ever had in the hobby. And I loved every minute of it. But I didn't realize how much everybody loved him, and I didn't know how much I loved him until it was gone. And I think what I learned from this is you have to stop to appreciate what you have before it's gone. And I know it's cliche to say that, but when things like that happened, or you have a family member or a tank crash or something, you don't realize how much you care about something until it's gone. But I was having so much fun making fun of him, and he was having so much fun making fun of me. And he does have a legacy, and I'll tell you what it is. And nobody knows this story, and my accountant tells me not to talk about it. But Frank launched a clothing line. It was just a T-shirt, and it was a joke. It was a horrible pixelated picture. You could barely make out what it is on the T-shirt, and then it just said Frank in capital letters. I sold that shirt, and within the first 3 days, it did over $50,000 in sales. We took that money, and we put it into a college fund for my son. So Frank's legacy is hopefully getting my son to stop playing video games when he turns 18. It's such a weird story. I have so many weird stories. But the weirdest, I would say, is my own. Back in 2002, I started making YouTube videos because I was too lazy to take pictures and type everything up and post it on a forum. I found it was easier to just take a quick video, toss it on YouTube, and share it that way. Talk a little bit maybe. I never meant for any of this to happen. And the name Walroo Joey came up because Joey was taken. Joey 123 was taken. All the variants of Joey was taken until I looked over at my Walroo tank. I was like, oh, Walroo Joey, and that worked. Walroo Joey was my username. Walroo Joey was my password for about 5 years. Nobody guessed it. I've since changed it to Walroo Joey 1. I've had a lot of struggles within my YouTube career, but one of the things that always kept me going is the community that I found and discovered, and that I learned to love, and the stories that I hear back on, and the impact that some of the videos have had. I'm sure you guys have heard a lot of the things that have happened over the years to my hobby, to my personal life, because I decided it would be a fantastic idea to open the doors to my personal life and tell the world what's going on at all times. But one of the things that I've done, especially I tried to launch a public aquarium, it always seems like something was stopping me, something was holding me back, but you guys always watched me bounce back, and I double down, and I come back harder and stronger. And the one thing that my channel has taught me, and I think that I'd love for you guys to learn about it, is no matter what, you have to keep getting back up. You have to keep moving forward. You have to focus on your mental passion, your health, and do what actually makes you happy. Chase your passions if you have one. It would be very difficult for me to be able to explain how grateful I am to everybody here. And I wish I would have did something a little bit better or a little different, or this went way better in my head last night. A lot has changed in my life. And YouTube was fantastic until it wasn't. Until it was obsessive, until I was controlled by what the internet wanted me to do. And it was no longer my hobby, and it was no longer my path, and I was no longer happy. And there's been times there, even recently, where I don't want to do it anymore, simply because I'm just not having fun anymore. But moving forward, I am making changes. I'm only going to do what I want to do because I think it's awesome, or I think it's cool, or I think you're going to like it. Videos are going to suck, but I'm going to be happy. So people do wonder if this is my last show or it's my last talk or whatever, and it is true. This is my 100th show. Spent over 400 days away from my children, away from my family, away from everything that I love. And I don't regret any of it, but I'm running out of time with my children. And I only see them half the time now. And, you know, Halloween, this was one of the last Halloweens I could have been with them. I wanted to at least say goodbye. I'm going to continue to, I told you, I'm emotional. I'm going to keep making videos. I'm not like disappearing from the internet, but I did want to say goodbye. And let you know that I'm just Joey Mullen, but this was my last talk. Now leave me alone. Can we get a selfie? I gave all you guys selfies. Better give me a selfie. Imagine if you said no. We have to go. Smile. It was 4 of you. Woo! All right, guys, my apologies. I probably could have written something. I was so nervous coming. I haven't been in public for 2 years. I've been in my house. Canada's still on lockdown. I hate flying. I hate traveling. I have terrible anxiety, and it's really hard for me to be in crowds. But I hope you didn't pick up on it. I'm always going to try to give you my best version of myself, and I could do this forever. If you guys really want me to do this for an hour, I'll talk about my feelings. I'm told it's good for me. No, that's it. You know what? I don't know if you guys are sticking around or what you got going on afterwards, but please do not be shy to come talk to me or hang out with me or do anything like that. I have nobody here. I came alone. You know, I don't have security either, so if you want to beat me up. I am Canadian, though, so I will fight back. Okay, let's wrap it up. This is going to get inappropriate really quickly, and I do see some kids here. Thanks for coming, guys. I love you. You changed my life and my children's.